What's up, everybody? It's your boy Sad Nixon coming at you with not a Secret Hitler video today, but a different kind of video. This one's called Spades for 6 teams, a deep dive. Let's get right into it. So, on the Secret Hitler Discord server, a team battle royale event was held recently in which 6 teams competed in a variety of online games, not Secret Hitler, other games. Now, some of these games, like Spades, are 4-player, so adaptations were made in order to accommodate for the 6 teams. In the case of Spades, 3 rounds were played, and each team got 1 bye. Now, teams and buys were all selected randomly for that event. And because of the nature of things, questions were immediately raised about how fair some of the RNG setups actually were, especially after seeing some of the results that came from these RNG setups of teams and buys and all that. And it raised the question for me specifically of, are there some setups that are RNG'd that are kind of demonstrably more or less fair or give better or worse quote unquote results for this kind of event? So that's the question that I looked into over the course of the last few days. And really what we're thinking about is, how do we prevent something like this, right? This is a real result that occurred in our event. And as you can see, it's kind of gross. I would describe this as gross. You have 2 different ties. You have 3 people who have each won 2 games each. They've each won 2 out of 2 games, and then 3 people who've won 0 games. And, even if those 3 people are kind of the best 3 people, I think that this result is kind of not great for a tournament, from a tourney perspective. It really, doesn't advance someone above all the other teams, right? So if you're trying to advance your lead, if you're in first place, this kind of result doesn't really help you. If you're trying to catch up, if you're in last place, this result also is not super helpful to you because you only are catching up on 3 teams rather than 5. It's not very good. It looks bad. We don't like ties. So what I looked into first are the permutations in the buys. And given that, in each game, there's 2 teams that get a bye, so that each team gets 1 bye, there are 15 bye permutations. And here they all are listed out, starting with teams 1 and 2 get a bye first, then teams 3 and 4, then teams 5 and 6, and so on and so forth. There are just 15 combinations that you can make. Now, what I found, though, is that these orders really don't matter very much unless you consider the skill of the individual players that these teams actually are sending. And if you want to consider that, that's a whole other conversation. That gets into some very subjective stuff. I'm not considering that. I'm just considering, things that we can kind of figure out with math in the abstract. So the buys I'm just going to ignore. They're pretty much all symmetrical in the end for my purposes. What's more interesting to me is the permutations in the teams. Since Spades is a team game, the 4 players in each round must pair up into 2 teams, 2 teams of kind of 2 team players for each of the 3 rounds. So in the result that I referenced earlier, the players from teams 1, 3, and 5 were paired with each other in every round, and they always won. So in round 1, you had teams 1 and 3 together. In round 2, you had teams 3 and 5. And then in round 3, you had teams 1 and 5. And each time, that pairing won. And I would say that this result is gross because, like I said, it results in 2 3-way ties. It just looks kind of weird. And it's kind of weird to have that triangle of 3 teams that are always getting paired with each other. So, can we guarantee that such a result will not occur by rejecting pure RNG and kind of selecting a specific orientation? And what other kind of gross results should we try to avoid? What's the best kind of result possible? I wanted to figure out all these questions after looking into this more carefully, and here's what I found. So, for all of this stuff that I'm about to talk about, we're going to assume that teams 1 and 2 have a bye round 1, 3 and 4 have a bye round 2, and 5 and 6 have a bye round 3. But it actually doesn't matter. It's all symmetrical. You can replace the numbers with other numbers all you want, but basically what I'm saying is the byes don't matter. So In the end, there are really just 4 kinds of score results that you can possibly get for our Spades format. There's result 1, in which 3 teams each get 2 wins, so you have 2 three-way ties for 6 ties total. You have result 2, where there are 2 teams that get 2 wins, 2 teams that get 1, and 2 teams that get 0. That makes 3 ties. There's result 3, in which 1 team gets 2 wins, 4 teams get 1 win each, and then 1 team gets 0. So that's 6 ties, because the 4-way tie is kind of 6 tie pairings. And then there's a result where each team gets exactly 1 win, so they all tie, and that makes 15 tie pairings. And there are 27 different team pairing permutations. So that means that basically the ways that the within the rounds the teams can get paired up, there's 27 different permutations for that. And these permutations can be categorized into 3 big categories based on what kind of score results they give. So the first category are permutations that guarantee either result 2 or result 4. So you either get the 3 tie or the 15 tie outcome. The second category guarantees either result 1 or result 3. So you always get a 6 tie outcome, but it could be either the one where 3 teams get 2 wins or the one where 4 teams get 1 win and they tie up that way. And then the third category guarantees either result 2 or result 3. So you either get the result where there's 3 ties, or you get the result where there's 6 ties as a result of the 4-way tie for second. And each of these permutations, these 27 permutations, has 8 possible results. That is the the gist of it for these categories. So now we're going to look into each category in more detail. Starting out with category 1. So in category 1, that's either 3 or 15 ties, 5 out of the 27 permutations that you can have are in this category 1. So if you were to just RNG all the team pairings, there would be 18.5% odds of getting something in this category. Now, 4 of these 5 hold the all different teams property, which is a property that I like that makes it so that none of the team pairings are repeated. So in these 4 setups that I've shown you, you can see that, for example, teams 3 and 5 are paired, and then teams 4 and 6, then teams 1 and 5 and 2 and 6, and then teams 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. So there were no repeats in there, right? You never get paired with the same team again, and that's true for everyone. So that's pretty cool. Now, there is one that's the odd one out. The 5th one in this category repeats every team pairing. So it's kind of the opposite, right? So you have 3-4 versus 5-6, then 1-2 versus 5-6, and then 1-2 versus 3-4. All the pairings are repeated. This is the only permutation out of the whole 27 that has this property. Now, regardless of whether or not they have all the different teams or not, each of these has a 75% chance of ending with the 3 tie setup and a 25% chance of ending with the 15 tie result. So that gives you an average of 6 ties in general. Now let's move on to category 2. Category 2 guarantees 6 ties, as I've said, and 4 out of the 27 permutations are in this category, making the odds of it appearing 14.8% if everything is just RNG'd. Now, all 4 of these permutations hold the, quote, 2 triangles property, and that means that the 6 teams are kind of split into 2 groups of 3, and within these groups of 3, they're only paired with each other for all 3 rounds. So for example, you have 3-5 versus 4-6, then 1-5 versus 2-6, and then 1-3 versus 2-4. So 1-3-5 is always paired with each other, and 2-4-6 is always paired with each other. And you might recognize that as the permutation that we had in real life in the result that I showed you earlier. But there's 4 different ways that you can end up with this kind of triangle. Now, each of these permutations has a 75% chance of result 3, where you have the 6 ties with the 4-way tie for second, and a 25% chance of result 1, which is our super gross 3 teams get 2 wins each result. And so obviously that's an average of 6 ties. You get 6 ties no matter what, but it's 2 different results that are possible anyways. How about category 3? Well, 18 out of the 27 permutations are in this category. That makes the odds of it 66.7% if pairings are RNG'd. So that's, 2 out of 3 permutations basically are in this category. It's most of them. 12 of them hold the all different teams property, just like some of the permutations from category 1. So for example, I'm not going to list them all, but for example, you have 3-4 versus 5-6, 1-5 versus 2-6, and 1-3 versus 2-4. The remaining 6 hold the one team is repeated property. So, for example, you have 3-4 versus 5-6, 1-2 versus 5-6, and 1-3 versus 2-4. So the 5-6 team is repeated in there. So 6 of those have that property, which is a little bit weird. Now, regardless of that, each of these has a 50-50 chance of either having 3 ties or 6 ties, and you can only get the 6 tie result that has the 4-way tie for second, and then the 3 tie result has the tie for first, the tie for third, and the tie for fifth, basically. So this gives you an average of 4.5 ties. So you might notice that that is the lowest kind of average tie number of all 3 categories. That's pretty cool. So here is a kind of summary of our 27 permutations, the categories that they fit into, and the kind of secondary properties that each of these hold. So you get kind of, 5 different groups. So what properties do we really want? Well, I think all different teams seems good. I like that. The 15 tie setup seems kind of bad. It seems kind of awkward to me. The whole triangle 16 tie or 6 tie setup, that seems definitely bad to me. You want to avoid that. Now the 3 tie condition offers the least ties, so that's pretty good. I think that's a good thing. On the other hand, the second 6 tie condition, the one with the tie for second, offers an untied first place, which is kind of a nice thing to have, to be able to just award one person first, no ties. So, all in all, I would say that we can definitely categorize some of these firmly in the gross category and some of these firmly in the good category. And I would say that some of these are kind of somewhat good, pros and cons. But yeah, this is about the categorization that I would give subjectively to all 27 of these permutations. So my proposal, given all this information, is just use the 12 permutations that are from category 3 and that give you the all different teams property. So category 3, remember, gives you either 3 ties or 6 ties, and all different teams. I think that's pretty great. I think that all around you get kind of the best average result if you do these things. A low tie average is what you really want. And I've also included these instructions on how to construct 4 out of 12 of these permutations. You can basically just determine buys randomly however you want. Then for game 1, pair up the 2 teams that will also be in game 2 together, and then make sure to split those guys up in game 2. Don't pair them together again. And then for game 3, you take the partners that just came in for game 2, and then you make sure you split those up at random. And that's essentially how you construct the permutation that fits the category 3 all different teams property. Now, it's a matter of opinion. You could also use the category 1 all different teams permutations. These permutations do have the pro of offering a higher chance of the 3 tie outcome. So if you really like the 3 tie outcome, then you might want to go for that. It does give you some chance of having the 15 tie outcome where everyone's tied, but it is a low chance, relatively low chance. You have a 50-50 of having the 3 or 6 tie outcome with the category 3 ones. So if you don't like the 6 tie one very much, you can avoid that. Use category 1. So here's a question: do you prefer the 3-tie outcome or the 6-tie outcome? Which one feels better to you as a result to get in spades? Or would you abandon this format altogether, scrap it, go with something different? Which honestly, that might happen if this event is run again. Uh, but if it's not totally scrapped, I feel like my proposal is pretty solid. So yeah, that's about all I have to say. Thank you for watching my video where I spent way too much time looking into this, and good night.